let's kind of say we're in survival. We're not in survival, but we can still do some of the survival mechanics in creative mode. So if I now turn the HUD and with the tab button and hit the G screen, and this will allow us to configure our toolbar with various blocks. So now we're greeted with the G screen, and you can see here there's many different blocks here, which you don't need to worry about when you first get started, and they'll kind of come into play as you discover the game more and more. Now there's different categories here. You've got armor blocks, cockpit blocks, you've got conveyor networks, all this stuff, but really don't worry about too much right now. So in terms of configuring your toolbar, the default toolbar comes with the main blocks you'll need. You've got light and heavy armor, a cockpit, a reactor, ion thrusters, atmospheric thrusters, and gyroscope. And actually, this is all you need to actually build your first ship. So that's already set up in that way, right? But what I'm going to do is first is if I just come out of this and then use the comma and full stop key to actually shift between the different toolbars, I can have up to 9 toolbars. So that actually even increases the amount of shortcuts I can have here. So I will just go here to toolbar 2. And on toolbar 2, for example, I will equip one of each weapon. So automatic rifle, welder, and I'm equipping these by either double clicking or right clicking. And so you can also drag down here. So there's 3 ways you can actually equip things to your toolbar. And I'll double click this drill down here as well. So there we go, that's the 4 kind of main weapons / tools that you have at your disposal. I'll go to first person here, you can see the drill. Now as soon as I equip the drill, I actually get indications on the HUD for various ores, because the drill has a built-in ore detector. So in this asteroid that we're on right now, it's got ice, cobalt, and iron. So let's go for some iron, because iron tends to be the main resource of the game. Turn on my headlights with L as well. It's a bit dark down here in the shadow. So using right click now, I can actually drill into this voxel and deform it. You see, making a little tunnel here. And right click is a quicker way of drilling, but it doesn't pick up any resources. When we get to the resources in a second, we're going to want to click left click to actually harvest those resources or get the ones we want. So let's come in here a second. We're almost there. We're 11 meters away, so let's keep pushing on. And also, as someone says, when it comes to changing the toolbar, you can also use control plus a number to switch between them as well. And all these shortcuts and stuff are actually documented in the controls. So definitely spend the time going through those advanced and basic controls to actually learn all the shortcuts, because there's a lot of shortcuts in the game and they can be really useful when you're first getting started, right? So here we've actually hit the iron vein in this asteroid, and we have these little chunks of iron, which we can, if I use the left click on here, mine now, I can hit F to pick up these chunks of iron. And this is chunks of rock, which we could pick up, but it's not the most important thing right now. So let's carry on drilling the iron ore here. Let's get a bit of this. Hear me? And you can also hold, you don't have to press F. You can actually also just hold F down to point, and you might not be able to pick up some of the smaller bits here. Keep going in. So big chunks. We can open our inventory with I. Now if we do this, we can see that we have 4.61k of iron ore and 112 kilograms of stone here. That should be enough actually, just for the purpose of this, showing you the main order how to get usable components, right? So we'll take this ore out, we'll kind of backtrack through our little tunnel here, come out, let's see what we've dug. And yeah, using our jetpack controls, which we would have learned at the very start, we can maneuver back towards the platform and the ship. And if we land back on the platform, we can come over to these industrial blocks here. And these are the blocks we want to use or interact with to do the processing. So we've got a large cargo container here, a small cargo container, a reactor, refinery, and an assembler. Now to process this, I can either go to the refinery, or I can actually access the refinery through the assembler. Now this gets onto something deeper called the conveyor kind of system in the game. So all these access ports are actually part of a conveyor network, and you can see there's conveyor tubes here which are just meant for transporting materials around a ship or station. But that's why I can actually come to the cargo container and then I can actually access the refinery from there. But for this sake, I will actually just go over to the refinery's access port and hit F. I should also note that as I'm in creative mode right now, I have an unlimited size inventory. In survival modes, you will actually have a set value for that inventory. So you'll fill up and eventually you'll have to empty your ore before you can mine anymore. So that's also key. So now I have the refinery controls here, and by clicking this, I can show the other connected cargo storage on the grids. I can see the assembler down here and the other large cargo containers that are on the grid. But we're just interested in the refiner right now. So there's already some platinum and some ingots, iron ingots in there that have already been refined. So what I have to do is just drag the iron into the refinery, and right away you can hear that it's spooling up, and that raw iron ore is actually getting processed into ingots here. Here we go, and that's plenty of iron for what we need for the. I'm really going to show you now what you need to do with this. We're not going to go through all the different materials, but there are many different raw materials you can get, and you'll need to get them if you want to build certain blocks. But I'm just going to build some basic blocks here that only require iron. And it's the same steps for actually mining all other ore. You'll find with your hand drill or with your ship that you might build later to improve your efficiency when mining, you will actually find different deposits of ore, and you might have to travel. You might have to go to different asteroids or different planets to actually find certain types of materials. So I'm keeping an eye on the chat here, making sure I haven't missed too many things. I've definitely noticed a couple of things there. So we'll take out all the ingots. We don't have to take them out actually. So what we'll do now, because they're connected via the conveyor network, we don't have to move them at all. All we have to do now is go to the production tab within this terminal screen. So we hit production, and now we are presented with the production tab, and we have here assembler 1 because we only have one assembler on the grid, and we can switch between disassembling. So you can also recycle old components to actually make to get raw materials back, but we're not worrying about that now either. We're just going to create some simple steel plates. Now if you look at steel plates, they only require iron ingots, and if I click on this here, I've clicked it once and I see that one steel plate has been produced here. And if I do control click, I can produce 10, or shift click to produce 100. Okay. And this is automatically pulling the iron ore from the refinery into the assembler here. And of course, control and shift click makes 1,000. We can do that right now. We have plenty of iron. So here we can see 1,020 odd steel plates are being assembled, and they're going into the inventory of the assembler. So this is probably enough for now. And if we click on this, this takes us right to the assembler's inventory. And we can still see the iron ore being pulled in from the refinery there. And we can also see what's being produced. So we can take the steel plates and drag them into our inventory. I really have to stress that, again, in survival modes, you will have max size in your inventory. So you might not be able to take as much as I'm transporting, but you'll soon discover that, because it will not let you add any more into your inventory here. I'm not going into a deep survival explainer today, just something to get you started and to explain the main kind of mechanics in survival, which is mining, refining, and assembling. That's the key thing here. We've done the mining, we've done the assembling, and refining and the assembling, and now we just need to do some actual building here in survival mode. So in survival modes, what you normally have is when you place a block down, So let me actually flick back using the either Control 1 or using the comma keys to go back to the other toolbar. I can select 1 on my toolbar now, and I have an armor block. This is the most important block that you need for a grid or a ship, pretty much. It's the foundation block, you might say, normally. Now, if I place it in creative mode, no resources are required. I just place it down. And likewise, if I get this up again on 1 and right click, I can delete that block. So what we're going to do is, for this, because there is some unfinished blocks here, this is an unfinished armor block. I'm going to take my welder, and you'll see when I come over it, I have a recipe just above me here. Now this light armor block needs 25 steel plates. And if I check my inventory here, I have 295. Now one thing you'll note is that when I weld this up, because they're in creative mode, I won't actually use those components, but in survival, you would actually have those components taken from your inventory. So, as long as I have enough of that, I can weld it up, go through various stages, and then finally we have a complete armor block here. And sometimes incomplete blocks are kind of used for decorative means, for scaffolding, and they're also used as a cheap way to build up, actually scaffolding to actually get higher up. And maybe in a shipyard you want to, rather than spend all the resources on a completed block, you really do just want something to get you higher, right? So that's something there. Again, I've got more steel plates, but I can come over to this. I can complete these if I want to as well. You can see the process construction bar go up. I think the key thing is here, if you ever get stuck, is to really hit F1. You can go to basic controls. You see all the controls for different things. The block placement controls. Everything is all here. So if I jump back off this, another way of getting resources is actually grinding. So I can come up to something that's already being constructed here. Let's say this armor block over here. And if I pointed it, I can do the reverse. So I can begin to deconstruct this block. And I should get, well, I won't because I'm in creative mode, but I would get these materials. So this would be 21 steel plates returned to my inventory, right? And that's another way of getting materials. And then if I want to come and reuse those components, for something else, I can come to the assembler, go to production, go to disassembling, and what will happen is now, if I click disassemble all, these steel plates will be disassembled and they'll be returned to their raw material. So you see now the iron ingots are actually going up because we're recycling those particular components. Right, it's a meteor storm inbound as well, the sounds of it, so our Gatlings are going to be sorting out the meteor storm. On the base Gatlings and the ship Gatlings have got us covered. And that is kind of the main, that's a basic introduction to just survival mode. And I realized some of the things went on, but in terms of showing you the process of getting raw materials and refining them and assembling components, that should actually be a nice introduction there. What I'll quickly do is show you how you can increase your efficiency with this by using ship welders and grinders and drills. So this is a pre-built ship here. This is a ship drill, and I can get in this, and the controls for a ship, this actually brings us on nicely to ship controls. We can use a WASD keys. It's the same as a jetpack pretty much. Spacebar to ascend, C to descend, Q and E to roll, and dampeners are also there. So you can see now we've got this panel over here is lit up because this is information that is actually key for ship controls. Now, I forgot to mention that you can get into a ship actually by approaching a cockpit, and this is a cockpit block here. I can maybe fly up here with jetpack. And when it highlights in yellow, that's something that I can interact with. And it says on the key on the actual screen, press F to enter the cockpit. Now F is the main use key in the game, and it's the same for opening doors and accessing panels and many of those things. And I might have even forgot to mention that to access a panel, you'll also need to press F. So it's a good one to remember. So now we're back in the ship, and I was going over the controls. You can turn off dampeners as Z, and then you will end up floating without any input from your mouse. You have O for turning off broadcasting on your ship. You have Y, which turns the power on your ship. So now the power is completely turned off, and that may be useful when you've actually landed on a station or a ship and you want to preserve your power. So you can, once you've come down here, I can't remember if this one, okay, this one has no landing gears. That's actually not the best one for the test. If I hop into one of the other ones here, the fighter, just come over here, hop into the fighter, and hide the HUD for a second. You'll see these blocks here are landing gears. Now when we come into range of something we can lock with, the landing gears will actually turn yellow. And once we're ready to lock, we can press the P to lock it. And now we have actually locked the ship with the station, so it cannot be budged off that. And you can see on the, just here, that the handbrake, or not the handbrake, it will be handbrake, it was a ground vehicle, but the landing gear has been locked. And I can press that again to unlock. And now once I've unlocked here, I am ready. The status is changed to yellow, and I'm good to ascend and fly off here. So I'm definitely, there's lots and lots of things to remember with the game, and even when I'm trying to teach you guys here in this relatively short stream, it's actually, there's so many things to get through. So apologise if I did miss that at the very start there. But luckily chat's also helping me to remind me of what features I need to remember. So I wanted to show off the drill. So this is kind of the controls for the ship. And let's get back into the ship drill. And this ship has it configured in a way that it's on the toolbar. So when I hit 1, I turn on the right drill, and 2 turns on the left drill, and I approach this ice patch, which is on the asteroid here. Now actually you can see we're drilling away into this asteroid at a much quicker rate, and also the ore is being automatically collected into our ship rather than we have to pick it up manually with F. So opening up the inventory screen with I, we can go to this to show all inventories on the ship, and we can scroll down, and the drills are empty because we've been mining ice. The ice has been automatically pulled into the oxygen and hydrogen generator automatically, and this is something because of the conveyor network. And you see here we have the drill, and this is something that wasn't really planned to cover in the tutorial, but conveyor networks are definitely your friends later on in the game to help you automate and speed up the process, because otherwise, if this conveyor network wasn't here, I'd have to come over to the access hatch on the drill, hit F, open up the inventory, and then manually drag out certain ores and then move them to the right cargo container. So this definitely is something, conveyor network is something that we're not going to cover so much in this video, because I don't think you need it to get started and have some fun.